Leaders Talk, the interview podcast portraying leaders who are committed to better leadership, better organizations, and a better world. Powered by Leadership Choices.
We don't never hear in companies loud enough. We have made it. We have won. It was really, really important. You had an impact and your contribution made the difference. We thank you. We need that in order to escape the acceleration trap. And what they must not do is become part of that acceleration trap, because that means your motor breaks down because of that a lot of heat. You will not win the race. The motto is slow down to speed up. High-performing companies often have more women on their boards and executive, the reason is that these companies often have a much more professional and modern people management, and that includes that you are able to deal with diversity. This comes from this anecdote of a man hammering a stone, and someone asks you, "What are you doing?" And he says with a lot of pride and dignity, "I'm building a cathedral." And we have quite a lot of people hammering stones. And if they just feel like I'm hammering stones to earn my money, or I'm hammering stones because my boss wants it, you're lost. And especially in those times, we need to, where so much change, so much hard work, and people feel tired. We need to give them this why and this picture of the future and show you are important.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of our podcast Leaders Talk, the podcast for better leadership, better organizations, and a better world. On May 6th, we hosted the Open University, a conference that looks at different aspects of leadership and transformation, and the conference that was organized together with our friends and partners from WHU, the Otto Beisheim School of Management, was under the main topic, the value of culture between asset and liability. The keynote of this conference was brought to us by Professor Dr. Heike Bruch, who heads the chair for the Center for Leadership and Human Resource Development at the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland. And Heike Bruch, she researches on the topic of organizational energy since many, many years. And so we invited her, and we were very happy that she accepted to present her research on how are the effects of 1 year of pandemic on the topic of organizational energy, and what can we learn as leaders from this? How do we need to adjust to that? So we thought it might be very interesting listening for you, a very interesting special episode for you to listen to the podcast of Heike Bruch. So I wish you some very good insights for your own role as a leader, as a coach, as a consultant, and looking forward to your thoughts. And let us know, just write us a comment what you think about that. Professor Bruch, I'm very happy that you're here today. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carsten. I say from St. Gallen in Switzerland. We have quite some sunshine on our little mountains here. And I hope wherever you are, you feel energized, you feel great, and also curious to hear something and to exchange on, I think, one of the most important topics that we have here currently in organizations. And I do not only mean my topic of energy and culture transformation, but the overall topic of the day. And I will share some my screen now, because I brought quite some substance, which comes on the one hand from our ground research or basic research, which we do in the university, and on the other hand from deep practical insights from all the collaboration that we have with companies and the transformation that we also support in practice. So you will see it's a mixture, and I will give some impulses, and especially around the topic of energy. Carsten and I discussed that we can have a dialogue also with you here. So let me have a look. I will share my screen, and then we take it from there. So, Carsten, can you see it now? Yeah? Yeah, super. Okay, because I do not. I see the faces, but I don't see my slides on your screen. So, it's organizational energy and leadership culture lessons from the pandemic. And as I said already, I think here with that topic on energy, leadership, culture, we have one of the most important topics. Because I think we had no time that was so challenging. No company, no individual has probably experienced in his working life or her working life such an challenging time. And at the same time, I think we have so fantastic and unique opportunities here. And the question whether we can grasp the opportunities and really grow and also thrive during that time depends very, very much on the question whether we are able to deal with the energy and the culture in organizations. And I give you some insights, and I also share some patterns that we found. And we have found those patterns already quite some time before, but they are so much intensified at the moment. So it's not necessarily new patterns. It is just much more obvious and much stronger, the effects. So let me have a look. If I embed that, I would always embed what we are currently going to in that change of the world of working. And the patterns that we saw, we had them already before the pandemic, but stronger, intensified at the moment. So in a simplified form, what we can see is that shift from a very static organization where people were just executors, then to an organization where people primarily work as knowledge workers. So we are much more competitive by being smarter, better educated, better experienced here. And then there were two mega trends that showed us it is not enough to have smart people in silos. That was, on the one hand, digital transformation. Already way before the pandemic, we had that mega trend here, and suggesting fundamental changes in almost without any exception every industry at the same time. That had never happened before to that extent, and these changes are very, very fundamental. The digital transformation affects the business models, the customer interfaces, the processes in the organization. All of these changes come with an enormous acceleration, so the need for speed. The second trend that's also unique in that extent is the demographic change that had also never been before, that we have such a scarcity of talent here. And we have researched that, and we know that already for decades, that we will be confronted with that war for talent or scarcity of talent. But the difference is now it's coming. In 25, for the first time, we'll have less people, just the heads, the head count, the less people that exist than we need in numbers. And you sense that in your companies for certain job groups. We face this already, but it will be extremely dominant going forward. So both trends suggest we have to fundamentally shift to a new way of working. And that means a network kind of working, which is much faster, much more flexible, which can address also shifts in customer needs in a very, very agile form. And at the same time, we need to be much more attractive. We need to give people choices and freedom and create environments for very, very different needs. So that is the general trend here. And before the pandemic, more than 90% of the companies in our geographical region were on their way towards this tomorrow. That's and now the pandemic comes, and the pandemic is not just a booster and a vehicle to go much more courageously towards the new ways of working. It also adds a lot of irritation. And in that irritation, there are people who question that way, who said, hey, in crisis, you need to lead top down, the captain on the bridge. We have people who are overwhelmed. We have all these irritating factors that lead us to say, hey, is it really the right way? Or should we go back in a crisis situation towards a more traditional, more classical, more organized way of working? I don't think so. I'm convinced we must go courageously towards these new ways of working and grasp these unique opportunities that we are facing exactly in that situation. And I put some things that we see in practice. On the one hand, business-related opportunities. So refocusing business, also accelerating innovations, accelerating new work transformation, and everything related to energy. So we have those fantastic opportunities to speed up, to energize people, to involve them, because so much is possible. The learning is so obvious that we have to learn, and of course new levels of speed and to also change the leadership culture. Yeah, and in that context we are. And I would like to share 5 short insights here, and let's see. I put my I always take this from Agile Methods with me here. So we will be rich and have a lot of substance, but need to focus. So first, I would like to show you, hey, what is going on with this new work transformation? And I call it here, we are in that between impact or also impact, and at the same time overheating. Let us have a look. So when we work with companies, we observe that quite a number of companies has difficulties to grasp this what is it, this new work, this agile working environment. And what we often use as a simple starting point is a description of these typical way towards new work or typical phases in the new work transformation. And here I take a framework from our colleagues from the University of Applied Science in Northwest Schweiz in Olten, and they describe the starting point as a very classical way of working, place-bound work. So in a classical structured form, everybody has his or her fixed working place or desk, fixed working hours, strong hierarchies, many rules, and you have these static organizations with an org chart, and everybody knows in which box he or she is, and you can print it and put your org chart on the wall. The end of that new work transformation is a very, very different way of working, and it's called a network organization. We have here, to a large extent, virtual ways of working, then project-based structures, so more fluid structures, which means you form a team when you have a certain task or a mission or a project, and then you dissolve it when you have accomplished your work. So project-based, and you cannot print it because it lives, it's so fluid. And then mobile flexible work as a standard, which means where people work, when people work is up to them and far less rules. And now they have also described typical phases on the way towards this network organization. And I haven't put in the header that was the typical phases until 16th of March, at least in our region, 16th of March 2020. That is when the first heavy lockdown started. So that were phases here, because during the pandemic, the order and the logic of this changed. But let us have a look at the typical phases first. So the phase 2 is people start to have home office or mobile work as an exception. No? When you ask, hey, can I work from home on Thursday? Okay, their boss says, yeah, okay. So then phase number 3 comes. And 3 is really, really a tricky phase. Namely, that is when companies say, now we want to become much more modern. And then they start to open the box of new ways of working and take a lot of these instruments out and give freedom to people to use them. And what this phase number 3 involves is kind of chaos. People feel we have a lot of freedom, but it's unorganized. And that leads to a lot of stress, uncertainty, and often also overwhelmment of people because they don't know what are the rules of the game, what is allowed, what's good in that context. So whatever happens, try not to stay with your company in phase number 3. Because stressful, modern but stressful. So in phase number 4, then companies start to get back into control and start to organize it and establish some rules or some home office regulation or so. Then it is much more organized, but it's more or less a freedom in a corset. Yeah. So sometimes even bureaucratic, because it is so well structured that it is a little bit too static. Now the big difference between 4 and 5 is you take bureaucracy out and you put culture in. In number 5, you have rules of the game, but this is social norms. And in companies where phase number 5 has come to life, you usually have certain guidelines, certain general principles, but then a lot of freedom for the team and their supervisor to find the way of operating that meets 2 things: their tasks and their preferences. And they themselves find it. So that one is now through the pandemic, quite a number of companies have directly been catapulted in phase number 3. And that is still, we work in a pragmatic form a lot with this one, and we find the majority of companies is in number 3 with all the opportunities that come with it, but also with the stress and all this. And I bring that more to life and put even more substance to it when I share some insights of our own research and it's only in a very pragmatic form. We have started to do research in this area in 2015, and for the first time we have published the results in 2016. What we have done, we asked about 20,000 people from about 90 companies, 80, 90 companies. And we ask all the people in those companies to rate to what extent they use 8 forms of new work. And mobile work is one of them. Flexible working hours, desk sharing, virtual work. So 8 of them, the technical structural side of new work, we ask all of them. And on that basis, we could classify companies as being much more modern or less modern. And the second thing that we ask is performance, or we looked at performance of these companies, and we could classify them in more successful companies. You find them on the right side, the gray, and the less successful companies, that's the white boxes. So now, what we could find here, and I took only the most relevant numbers out. The left number of it are the numbers from 2016 and onwards. We repeated these big surveys and benchmarked until 2019. We always found more or less these numbers here. So there were only 6% of the companies, we call them successful pioneers, that were in the modern way of working and were successful with it. There were 19% of the companies that were successful, that were modern, but were not successful. So in total, you can add it up. It's 25% of the companies. 75% were still in a very classical way of working. Now, we repeated this study also in 2020, and you see the numbers, the red numbers here. It's still only 5% successful pioneers, but 30% modern overstrained. So companies that are in that modern way of working, work in a virtual form and so on, but are less successful than they used to be before, they burn their fingers. And so we were wondering, why is it? 25% of all companies go towards that new ways of working or are already advanced. Most of them go towards it, but they have reached already this modern way of working. And only a quarter of them is successful, and more than 3/4 of the companies that go there fail. And in the pandemic, even more. It's 1 versus 6 in the pandemic. So you also can see some success factors. We always link it to really also business numbers here. The successful pioneers are financially more successful. Almost as successful as the group that is not here. I didn't show it here, the traditional high performers. Here, financially almost as successful. But the successful pioneers, they are ahead of all other companies in terms of the currency of the future. Best energy, highest innovation, you see speed, agility, and employer attractiveness. So the big mega trends, the digital transformation and the need for speed, yes, they have it here. And also demographic change, to be the most attractive company, they are there. And the others use the same tool, but are overstrained and have more negative energy, are exhausted, less attractive, and also not fast. So we were wondering, how come? How come? What is going on? Why are so many companies overstrained and also stressed and have more tensions in it? And so that's one framework. And the second framework that I would now like to show with you now is it has a lot to do with their ability to manage energy and to deal with the energy in the organization. This framework is the framework of organizational energy, and we have developed it quite some time ago. I started with it already when I was still at London Business School before joining St. Gallen. And 20 years ago, I came to St. Gallen, which is my favorite university on earth. And since then, also we do a lot of research. We have a little consulting company called The Energy Factory. So it's already a framework we work a lot with. But now, during this time, it is right in the middle of what we need and what is going on in companies. So what can you do with a framework? You can describe to what extent the company has mobilized its potential. That's the y-axis on the left hand side. And here you can distinguish companies with high intensity. They have mobilized the heads, the hearts, and the hands of people. So, and you sense it when you enter a company. There's a lot going on, and this buzz and the organ versus low. And low is more slow. Slow, things are running smoothly. Most related concept end here, and we found in our work with companies who have co-developed it with companies, we need a different access. We need additional access, and that's the access, the quality here, because people can use their potential in a very different form. We have they can use it in a positive form. Then we have a positive energy, a positive quality of energy. People use their engagement, their potential, their creativity and passion for the company, versus negative, and this is when people use it against the company. So now we have 4 different types of energy that we get when we and what we always look at first is high productive energy, which is the top right box, mobilizing the potential and using it for the company. We need that more than we ever needed it before, because you always need increased energy in times of change. That can be innovation, that can be transformation, that can be crisis situations, that grows. And now in that period of time, in most companies, we have all these challenges and opportunities at the same time. So leaders in the organizations or teams in the organization need more of that productive energy. And when is it particularly high in companies? As a simplified pattern, we can say whenever you have some purpose, be it a fantastic opportunity. You've developed a strategy. That's the only strategies that come from fairy tale. We call this winning the princess. When you have a beautiful opportunity and you see there's this princess or prince in it, and that is one purpose. Or when people see there's some ugly threat, and that is slaying the dragon. So, and at the moment, companies need to position, because there are many opportunities. There are many possible dragons around. But what you need here is really the courage also to focus and say, this one is the most exciting. Let's go for this one. Here, comfortable energy. That one is feeling good, well-being, and here. The question is, how much of that kind of comfortable energy do you want? From our research, I can say I was surprised. That was one of the most striking insights. We thought it is bad. We thought it's the comfort zone, and we in older publications we also called it comfortable inertia. But I had to learn companies need as much as possible of that comfortable energy. And especially in those times now, we need to take care of the well-being of people. Because what we found is high-performing companies have high levels of both, and it is balanced. Strong engagement, productive energy, and at the same time, people like it. They feel comfortable. If we have an imbalance of these 2 energy states, we have 2 forms of trap. One is the so-called complacency trap. That is when comfortable energy is very, very high, but productive is significantly lower. People feel at ease. They feel like, I like it, very cozy, but I don't like work, more or less. That is, and then in practice, we need to mobilize more productive energy to involve them. That's one imbalance. The other one The other one is the opposite. That is when people go to the limits, productive energy, they really, really work hard, but they don't feel comfortable. That's the imbalance. We call that the acceleration trap. And people feel exhausted. They feel overheated. They feel like we are so kind of tired here. And then the implication is not to lower productive energy and try to achieve less. It is simply try in these times to strengthen comfortable energy. And that's a challenge for leaders to say, how are my people? Where are they? I don't see them here. So try to make sure not to lose anybody in those times. So maximize the positive and balance them. And the negative ones we need to minimize. And we have more negativity currently in companies that is either resigned inertia. Resigned inertia is this, it doesn't make sense, will not be successful anyway. We don't see progress. It doesn't make sense to make an effort. And in these difficult times, we need to show people that it is important and it is possible and there's progress. So take out this resignation by showing them a perspective, giving them a perspective here. And the worst of all is corrosive energy. In this situation, you have mobilized the full potential, but people don't use it for the company needs. They use it for often their own benefit or the benefit of their silo, which means people are highly creative. They also they are emotionally involved and they take action with the hand here, but they use it in counterproductive form, resistance against change, also this competition between units, the silo thing, micropolitics, mobbing, cynicism, toxic individuals in it. So that are different forms. And and today, in those times, the leadership work and the work of HR and coaches is energy work. Energy work. So I have brought some numbers here. I give you the material afterwards. It is not just soft factors. The soft factors are significantly related to success in companies. Actually, these soft factors like energy are actually the hardest factors because they have such an impact on the financials or the growth, the innovation, the customer satisfaction. But of course, they are not easy to grasp. We have measured the energy by now in more than 1,400 companies as a full assessment. That is companies where we have measured it from the CEO down to the lowest level in 55 countries. So we can benchmark and so on. And these are numbers now only from 2018 and 19. And here you can show that the companies on the left-hand side that have more productive energy are significantly more successful in terms of all kind of output indicators. I put only these indicators. And companies with more corrosive energy are so impaired in their performance. So that's only some insights here. We can also measure it. That is only a little thing here. So I have more prepared. I have, of course, I could just go on, but maybe there are also some comments or something. Carsten, you want to give me some hint, or shall we just go on?
Absolutely, Heike. So there will be one question that kind of we are scratching our head about. So we see in our client base, we see a lot of customers that we think are in the productive area, but we see that almost all of them feel that they are in the acceleration trap, meaning, too much work. And it's, even though the spirit is positive, everybody is kind of, I can't do it anymore. I'm exhausted. Yeah. And so my question is there any sort of companies that are doing better there? And is there anything we can learn from them?
That is exactly the acceleration trap. That is working hard but feeling exhausted at the same time. That is the acceleration trap. And we are not talking about single individuals that are stressed. We are talking about the collective. It is this, and maybe you rarely enter offices at the moment, but usually it is exactly this climate that you feel when you enter an office or a factory, or when you sense it. You even sense it through these digital channels at the moment here. And yes, and that is exactly the decisive questions. There are companies that do it better. And otherwise, it would not be a competitive factor. Otherwise, it would be sad, but it would not, it would just be something like a given here. And what do you think? I ask, maybe you put some numbers in the chat. What do you think? What's the number of companies that is in that acceleration trap? If you would estimate the number, when you look at your company, the customer, maybe your customers, partners, what you hear, just put some numbers. And Carsten, you can share this. I will, the numbers that we find, and I can give you some hints there. It's on the agenda also on number 4, but I think it's really, really urgent, or it is something that's on the top of our head at the moment. What numbers do you find? Let me see. I will also look at my chat, but
75, 90%.
Oh,
yes,
la, la, la,
exactly.
la. Oh, how wonderful the people are here. I mean, that's I tell you, we looked at this number already for quite some time, huh? So we can see it in a barometer. For a very long time, it was always about 50% of the company, every other company. Now, the last check that we did was in 1819, and we had already an increase, and it was 57% of the companies that were in that crazy time. Now, in 2020, what we can find is about 75%. 75%. We are not talking about individuals. We are talking about entire organizations or large part of the organization. When we measure it within an organization, of course, we map also. And what is a recent trend here is when we do it in a company, always open the box of the company here. Huh? What is it like in different units or functions or so, and hierarchical levels. And what we find here, more recently, we find the acceleration trap already much more prominent at top management level. Top management level. And you can guess, what does it mean if the top management, executive board, and the area heads, division heads there, if this group is in that, you can think what that means. And maybe your observation is also, that means they are unable to prioritize and to lead. And that then means a lot felt chaos, a lot of lack of priority, guidance, and negative energy that you have in organizations. That is, so we have to start. So what did you, your question was, what can we do? And maybe let me see, I can, I jump a little bit the leadership part and show you this acceleration trap. And acceleration trap is the opposite of speed, by the way. It's the opposite of speed. We work quite several years with Porsche racing team. And what they must not do is become part of that acceleration trap, because that means your motor breaks down because of that a lot of heat. You will not win the race. Yeah. So in order to really deal with the need for speed and all this, you must never fall victim of the acceleration trap, because it makes you slower, it makes you less attractive, less healthy in it. Huh? So here we measured before, it was about 57% of the companies in 2008, 18, 19. And the more recent is much closer to what I saw the numbers you suggested. It's at 75%. What is the acceleration trap? That is large parts of the organization have the feeling, it's subjective feeling in it, that we have one, two, or three of this form of overheating. Either overloading, too much work. It's just the amount. Multi-loading is we have too many different things to do, so lack of focus, lack of sense of priority, too many things at the same time, all of them top priority. And perpetual loading, that is over time when people have the feeling we're chronically at the limit. And when I say it's 75%, there are these 25 who don't have it. And that is interesting. That is interesting. It is not just zeitgeist. It is no. So, and what is it they do? I put you some numbers because it is this overheating is one of the the performance and health killers that you have in it. So it has a negative impact on people, of course, but also on performance. Yeah, so it's not a good idea, and there's no dilemma. There's really no dilemma between performance and well-being. You don't want to be in the acceleration trap. So what can companies do? I only circled two activities here. Develop a sense of priority. That is, or when you start with these modules, first you need to identify it. Every car has some on the cockpit, some petrol control. So you need to know how much energy is there in your team and are they close to break. So that is even more important when we are more virtual than we want to be. Then sense of priority is very important, that because we have so many complex and many things at the same time and VUCA here, we have the courage to focus and we invest time in developing a shared sense of focus. And that is then a prerequisite for what I circled, the stop doing. I recommend regularly stop doing activities, and we also suggested for every change process that we start, we need to take things out because you cannot just put it on top of a busy agenda. And one of these stop doing initiatives that we recommend is called spring cleaning. And spring cleaning, you can also call it in a more transactional form, ABC analysis. You can do it with in a workshop format, and you put all the activities on the table, and together with your team, you prioritize A, activities that are top priority, B, are things that are important, but you collectively park them. You take them out, you park them. If they are not urgent, you park them. And C are the things that you can cancel. You can take cancel. I recommend to do that with regard to a shared priority or goal. Yeah, so is it digital transformation? Is it innovation? Is it customer passion? So make sure you focus on what is absolutely key. And especially in these times of crisis, I recommend to take a shared goal that is contradictory, because cost saving you do anyway, which means innovation, for example. Or that is one thing I recommend, and we also recommend it or have processes to do it in the entire organization. So the last circle there is pit stops, and pit stops I suggest that you work with certain milestones. The motto is slow down to speed up, which means when you have processes, try to focus on certain milestones, and especially when you have longer term change processes, don't do everything at the same time, but put it on a timeline, have certain milestones, and take a moment to celebrate the success of these milestones, because people need a sense of progress. I always use the metaphor from sports, a starting whistle and a final whistle. And what I hear in companies often is only the starting whistle. We start one after the other, and we play different games at the same time. Here's ice hockey, here's basketball, here's football. We don't never hear in companies loud enough, we have made it, we have won. It was really, really important. You had an impact and your contribution made the difference. We thank you. We need that in order to escape the acceleration trap. Productive energy, yeah. But in order, with all the hard work, to have comfortable energy, we need to have that sense of, hey, I'm important, appreciation, success. Of course, not for a long time. Therefore, we use the word pit stop. But we hardly see it at all. We see the opposite, to say, oh, look what we haven't achieved, and here was a mistake, and this one you have not accomplished. And once people are successful, you put even more on their shoulders. This is a recipe for putting people in the acceleration trap. So that is a long answer to this really, really important question here. And so plan the pit stops, plan the progress with your team.
That's a fascinating answer, Heike. One more question in that same direction, and we also need to be mindful of time. But there's one question. Do you observe in your research that companies who have a more female leadership team or more female leaders in the top management are better equipped to cope with this speeding down, pit stops, stop doing stuff? Is there any correlation?
It's good that you ask for correlation and not causality. Yes, the answer is yes. High-performing companies often have more women on their boards and executive, and the reason is that these companies often have a much more professional and modern people management, and that includes that you are able to deal with diversity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's an indicator of a modern way of leading and operating. It is not that everything is the same, and then they hire some women and they make the difference. It is more, hey, we need to become much more female, much more diverse, and find a way to deal with this. And the companies that have put an emphasis on people management and culture and leadership, they are so much more successful. And part of it is, of course, having more diversity also in the top management level. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a shared root cause, if you want. So the root cause is the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Foster women and young people and experienced people, different backgrounds, and so on. Be proud of the diversity and celebrate it, but not as just as a surface thing. Mm-hmm. Huh? Yeah. I want to go. We skipped the leadership part in it. That's unfortunate, but I cannot change it. Now, at the end. So, what do I recommend? If you give me 2 more minutes, then I would give at the end. I give you some recommendations for a real leadership transformation at the moment, and I start with what is going wrong. What are 5 typical myths and pitfalls that we observe at the moment? Just let go, which means, okay, we have already new work. You don't have new work. Home office is not new work. We have anti-new work at the moment, because new work always comes with more freedom and choices. And if we had forced presence before and we have forced home office at the moment, this is not new work. So We cannot just stop doing something and say, no, we have it already. Then another myth is the assumption that home office is just for the well-being of people because they have more personal advantages. No, this is an assumption. Mobile work or new ways of working make us much more successful and, of course, attractive and should serve the purpose of performance, sustainable performance, and being attractive and better for people. New work means less leadership. The opposite is true. The opposite. We need less management, less bossy behavior, but we need much better leadership. Huh? So back to the old normal. There are some fantasies that we can go back. Phase one in that no option, not possible. And introducing new work top down is also not possible. Yeah, that's here. That one, I will not go through all these 9 steps. I put this together here because I find it extremely important that we do it now in a right form, that we invest exactly now in culture and leadership, but I will not go through all this. Only to emphasize, it's urgent. Usually these topics are not urgent. Leadership, culture, people development, energy is normally never urgent, but now it's urgent. Now it's urgent. If we don't invest, it is more costly. It's more costly. So we need visible commitment from the top. I would heavily invest in painting a picture of the future, road mapping, that is these pit stops here, strengthening modern leadership. The leaders at the moment are really the ones that are most in risk to fall in the acceleration trap. They have too much on their shoulders here, and we need to give them tools and strengthen them. The DNA, I would really take time to put your DNA on a say, hey, which values do we need? What can we learn in this wonderful period of time? I'm a big fan of numbers here, but no, not from research perspective. In practice, we need more indicators. Where are our people? We need more evidence. You cannot just do that on the basis of our gut feeling. Therefore, change monitoring or pulse checks, energy assessment, things like that. New work rules, make them explicit, and develop this high performance culture, healthy high performance culture. To summarize, I brought this one. I always take this metaphor when we talk about visions and picture of the future of a cathedral. Yeah, this comes from this anecdote of a man hammering a stone, and someone asks you, "What are you doing?" And he says, with a lot of pride and dignity, "I'm building a cathedral." And we have quite a lot of people hammering stones. And if they just feel like I'm hammering stones to earn my money, or I'm hammering stones because my boss wants it, we are lost. And especially in those times, we need to, where so much change, so much hard work, and people feel tired. We need to give them this why and this picture of the future, and show you are important. You are important, and that therefore this vision, this picture of the future is so important. And I took this part of the picture because maybe you see their kids playing football and basketball. Involve the young generation, involve different people when you paint the picture of the future, and not top down here in it. And the last thing, and that is like a personal mission that closes the loop here, is from Peter Drucker. He says, your first and foremost task as a leader is to take charge of your own energy, and then to orchestrate the energy of others. And that is, I wish we didn't have so much time, unfortunately, but I hope, I could give you something. And especially in those times, take care of yourself, protect your own passion and well-being, and then you can also share it with others. And I think of that quote traditionally whenever I fly. I didn't fly for quite some time, but when they come with the oxygen masks, they always say protect yourself first and then help the kids. And I find it brutal every time. But it's exactly the right thing, because the others cannot survive here. So as someone who shapes the future of a company, as a leader, as a coach, make sure you protect your passion first, and then you can help to orchestrate the energy in your team and organization. I hope you liked it. I hope you got some impulses, and thank you for having me.
And what have you learned, Carsten?
We hope you found the sharings of Heike as insightful as we did. It was kind of the theme of the conference, so the further parts, the executive panel discussion and the individual case study sessions, very much kind of connected back to her themes around the acceleration trap and this model of organizational energy, which has the two dimensions of intensity and quality. So intensity being speed, and quality being to which degree the interaction is considered as a more positive interaction or more negative interaction. And this acceleration trap, which is actually in the productive area, where you're working on high speed and you're working with a positive mood, but since everybody is kind of doing too much and nobody's taking the foot off the pedal, the gas pedal, eventually companies kind of drift into this acceleration trap where everything is overheating, people are getting sick, everything is getting slower, and that's a bit of a it's a contradiction in itself, almost. Like, why is this way? And it's another great application of this very simple yet very, very powerful tool or model that really helps us to understand where organizations are at today. Write us your thoughts into the comment, or write me an email at karsten.draht@leadership-choices.com. Looking very much forward to hearing your thoughts, and see you in our next episode, which will be another special edition, the panel discussion with a very high caliber panel, and you can actually look forward to that. So, talk to you soon.
This was an episode of Leaders Talk, the interview podcast portraying leaders who are committed to better leadership, better organizations, and a better world, powered by Leadership Choices. If you want to give us feedback, please send an email to leaderstalk@leadership-choices.com. Thank you for listening.